And you're going out on a tour soon. What's your favorite part about touring? Is it playing the new music? Is it visiting friends in different cities? Is it all of the
It's
above?
it's everything, and I'm really fortunate that I get to do this for a living, and I'm fortunate that I have I get to travel all over the world, and so it's all those things you said. For me, it's like, next week we leave. Our first show is Friday night. We're in Las Vegas. Haven't been there in a year. I got a lot of friends there. So I get that aspect of it. Then I get my fans. We get to, it's our first show. I haven't played these Wednesday 13 songs in a long time. So I get a lot of satisfaction out of this in so many ways. So it's fun for me. I love being on tour. I love waking up in a different state every day. And it's all I know. For some people, it could be crazy, but like, I leave next Thursday and I get home May 5th. So think about it, that's a long time. It's 37 shows on this tour, but there's 2 weeks probably of traveling back and forth, so it's a lot of time. So when people comment on our tour dates, go, "Why aren't you coming here?" It's like, I'm going to be gone for 2 months. Give me a break.
I can only, there's only one of me. I know it says
Yeah,
13, but there's only one of me. So,
exactly. And someone goes, "Hey, you should play my town." I always tell people, "I'll guarantee you, I drove further than you did."
right? I
Yeah.
know because you're all over. And do you
Yeah.
look for, since you're kind of a collector, do you look for kind of like maybe a comic book store or, different toy store and different, I love
Oh,
that.
yeah. And and
What?
and you know what? The greatest thing is, now that people know I'm into all of this, it comes to me for the most part. Most
Lucky
people reach
you.
out to me and go, "Hey, come check out my store." I'm like, "Okay." And social media has just opened everything up. I discover places, so when I go to towns, and I'm like, "Ooh, why don't we leave an hour early so we can stop by this toy store?" And I pop into places. And then I also am very lucky that my fans hang on my words and listen to everything I said. So literally last week I did a podcast and I talked about, "Oh, I would love to get these old 1980s Gary Coleman movies from and I got about 20 messages, and I'm going to have about 50 copies of this stuff." So I get all this stuff brought to me, and it's a really cool thing. So when I come back from tour, sometimes I'll come back with 2 or 3 suitcases, boxes full of presents, gifts, things I bought, things, and it's just and then it just goes into the collection.
Before I switch over to the obvious, theme of the appetite for distortion, you see my shirt, you see the posters, but you mentioned He-Man and just who you are in the theatrics. I think there's talks of another He-Man reboot or reincarnation. Is this
Yeah,
something
I've heard about that. I think I even saw the guy that's playing He-Man. Uh,
Yeah,
so
I
I'm
won't judge it yet. I mean,
I'm
the Dolph
interested.
Lundgren, even how cheesy as it is, that will always live in my heart.
Yeah, it's horribly awful, but it's okay. I have faith for it. Like even the G.I. Joe movie, I didn't want to like it. I didn't like it at first, but upon several viewings of it, I accepted it, and it also kind of got me reading the comics and stuff, and I became even more of a nerd. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think the my love for GI Joe or He-Man will ever die. Even if they butcher it, I got this. I always will
Yeah,
always
you
have this.
do. Well, I was going to ask though, because I've talked about the topic of, Slash is a fan of The Walking Dead, and he submitted a song, but he was rejected. Did you ever submit a song for whether it was a GI Joe or He-Man or something that you really wanted but didn't get?
I don't know if anything's submitted. I mean, I've always wrote songs and just as an inspiration, but nothing like to submit for. I wish someone would ask me to write song. I would absolutely love it. I would destroy it. I would kill it. It would be awesome for me to do I would love to do an album of just theme songs.
Do you like one of horror theme songs? I mean, there's enough
So
horror movie.
I
No?
could do all of this stuff. Like even our drummer live, there's this when we have a drum solo in between his parts drum solo, we edited in horror movie samples. So you have like The
Um,
Exorcist and The Shining and all this stuff. So it's just all these are things that we work into our world.
Oh, I love that. And a question, because I was excited to talk to you today. One of my listeners as well, who actually gave me that Fargo poster in the back, the GNR one, Eric from Ohio. He said he met you a few years ago. He's a huge fan of your music. Can't wait for the new album. And he told you about when you and Joey from Slipknot got to meet Axl in Europe.
Mhm.
And it says it's a cool story, and maybe you could share it.
Yeah, we were Murder Dolls in 2010. We did about 2 weeks in Europe supporting Guns N' Roses. It was just us and Guns N' Roses. And this was during the time, this is before Guns N' Roses was back with Duff and Slash. So it was Axl, DJ Ashba, Bumblefoot. So there's that lineup.
Hmm.
And they were, this is during the time when you heard Axl was making people wait 2 and 3 hours. This that time when honestly, I think the social media vibe on him wasn't very good. Like,
Right.
so we went into that tour expecting it to be kind of what the social media was, but it was couldn't have been more opposite. They treated us like they loved us. I couldn't figure it out. Like, what's happening? They were like, you guys can use all the stage, use whatever you want. Play how long can we sound check? Is how long do you want to sound check? Like, what? How long is our set? Well, you got 40 minutes, but do you guys want to play 50? Like, so they were just super cool to us. And over the first week, the band loved us, the crew loved us. They were calling out songs for us to play during sound check. It was a really cool vibe. And
Nice.
I guess Axl heard that we were cool and he wanted to party with us. So we were in Switzerland and we arrived at the arena and they were like, hey, after the show, Axl wants to party with you. So when you're done after the Guns N' Roses show, be here and we'll come grab you. And after their show, Axl ran straight to our dressing room, just completely drenched in sweat, and goes, "Hey guys, I'll see you in a few minutes." All right. We're like, did that just happen? So we go into his dressing room about 20 minutes later, and somehow in Switzerland, there's full on Hooters backstage, like a cake
Whoa.
Hooters. There's a Hooters in Switzerland, which I didn't know. So there's hot wings, there's margaritas, full on thing. And my band is nervous. They're like, "Well, who's going to talk to Axl?" And they're like, "Well, you're the leader. Go up front. You talk." So I'm kind of leading the pack, and we're all kind of nervous. We don't know what to say to him. And we walk in the room, and I see him, and I'm walking up to him, and I'm like, "Hey, man!" He sticks his hand out and says, "How you doing? Nice to meet you." And he just first thing he said was he just looked at my shoes and went, "Cool boots. Where'd you get them?" And I just went, "Myrtle Beach." Just like, and it was just like crickets. And he went, "Cool."
There's not much of a story
It
there.
was that stupid. Like, that's all I said. Myrtle Beach. Uh, and then we ended up having Hooters and drinking and partying, and that was a really cool tour. And they told us after that tour that we were one of the only support bands that didn't get booed off the stage.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
that
because
was
I've talked to some other bands and people who were like, yeah, it was a rough. They were nice to us, but it was a rough go with some of the
well, I
fans.
know I did it with Iron Maiden with Murder Dolls prior, and it was insane. I've never seen that many people hate my guts. Uh, Guns N' Roses, totally different story. So, but it was also 10 years apart from that too. So I don't know. It's metal audiences can be odd. If they don't want you there, they'll let
Yeah,
you down times.
they could be fickle.
Yeah.
Hopefully you get another chance to open up now that Duff and Slash are back. It's
I
with
mean,
with Slash and with Del James, they're all about horror and collecting toys. So you'd think you guys would all be best friends.
you know what, stranger things have happened. I'm sure we'll cross paths. Again, I'm never going to change what I do. This is my path till I'm done. And but yeah, it just seems that the horror world is, it's just getting bigger and bigger. And I've been doing this for so long. Someone will eventually come around my way, and I think I'll be dust the dust off me a little bit and go, hey, what is this guy? What has he been doing? For a while. So it's just again, I want to say Michael Monroe from Hanoi Rocks told me, he's like, one day you keep doing this, man. He goes, one day it's going to come around and people will, it may not be instant for you, but and I'm like, okay. So one of those days I did, I thought I would be a rock star in my early days, the big time, but like, well, here I am coming up on 50 and I'm like, all right, when's it going to happen?
Well, it was this. I appreciate your humility because I mean you are successful in the way that I see it,
Right.
but
Right.
I understand.
Well,
There are
there's
levels to success. But I
right.
mean, I also people say that to me, and as I said at the beginning, this is the almost the fifth hundred episode. I already have
Yes.
a radio career, but I've been
That's
interviewing
it.
for like 7, 8 years, and I'm like, when is this going to happen for me? Because it's funny. One of my brothers who's actually staying, moved back from Virginia, and staying with us. He listens to a podcast that is just 12-year-olds criticize or talking about food. And he thinks it's the funniest thing ever because obviously they're 12 and they have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
He's like, it's just so funny. And I'm like, that has like hundreds of thousands of views. I'm like, I get to interview Alice Cooper. I get to interview Wednesday 13. But whatever. People look at me a certain way. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's the same thing with you,
I
Wednesday.
think that's what's kept me going and driven for so long is because I don't feel like I've ever made it. I made it to
Mm,
a level, but I didn't make it to the Metallica, Guns N' Roses level.
mm.
But I'm not complaining either. I'm just saying like I think that's what keeps me going because I don't ever feel like I got
I
you know,
get you.
but I love that because I think that's what keeps me going. If I would have
Yeah,
like I've made it, I wouldn't be this interested in it. I think that sometimes success can kill it, and maybe that's been a good thing is that I've had just a little taste of it that kept me. I want more, and that's kept me going.